2 bathrooms. If I install a second bathroom, it becomes more valuable to other people because I could sell it for a lot more money. Costing about $8,000 for the bathroom work and the tiling and so on. I'm sure I could increase the price of the apartment by about $30,000. So I have an interest in thinking about other people, total strangers. I'll never know them, but I know they're out there and they would like to live in my apartment. And consequently, I'm going to take care of it because I'm through this exchange system, the possibility that they could offer me money for my apartment. Their interests also matter to me, and I try to take account of them. Now, there's a very important principle when we think about voluntary exchange that is worth exploring and thinking about. It's quite clear in the typical case of exchange that Ken and I exchange the pen for this clicking device. We both benefit, or we would not have made the exchange. There's a mutual benefit. That's fairly intuitively obvious. It was not, however, obvious to Aristotle or Karl Marx. Karl Marx thought things exchange according to equal value. And he cites Aristotle on this. Aristotle says in the Politics that goods of equal value exchange. And Karl Marx says that's clearly right. I think it's clearly wrong. Goods of unequal value exchange. They are unequal value because the two persons have the reverse valuation, if you will. Ken prefers this device to the pen. I prefer the pen to the device. They're not equal in value. There's no exchange of equals. There is an exchange of unequals. But the inequality is reversed in each case. Right? I prefer what he has to what I have, and vice versa. So we can see that people prefer to exchange up to the point where they're no longer better off from an exchange. That's fairly intuitively clear. That's why people make exchanges. But there's another kind of exchange, and that is mutual advantage. And so we can ask, what kind of advantage are we going to talk about? There's two kinds of advantage, and these are often confused. And to get straight on this, to get clear on this, is very important for understanding what exchange is in the market, whether it's international exchange or just down the street or some local cooperative behavior. And it need not even always be just exchange in the market. There are lots of ways that people cooperate. They exchange services even though there isn't a price that's being put across the table in money. Quite often people, especially in smaller villages, will engage in cooperative behavior. I will help you bring in your crop if you help me bring in my crop, and so on. So not all exchange is mediated through money, although in advanced market economies much is. So we distinguish two kinds of exchange of advantage: absolute advantage and comparative advantage. And this distinction is one of the most important non-obvious elements in economics. A lot of economics is in some way obvious when you think about it. Like what I was talking about, exchange of unequals. It wasn't obvious to Aristotle and Karl Marx, and they were both pretty smart guys, so I read them very, very carefully, and I think they were wrong. Things do not exchange because they're equal in value. They exchange because people have unequal valuations of them. But that we can think about. It's not that hard to get over it. This one is deeper and harder. It seems like a kind of a trick. And it's David Ricardo who initially understood this idea of comparative advantage as the foundation of a market system. And in particular, if we engage in specialization based on comparative advantage, we can do something very strange. We can consume more than we can produce. Now obviously, how is that possible? You can only consume what you produce. You can't consume more than you produce. But through comparative advantage you can. Now I've picked two randomly chosen names, just out of a name randomizer. Abedin and Tom. These just came out of my computer. And we're going to look at some exchanges that these two randomly chosen persons might engage in. So we're going to start with an economy of apples. Very simple economy, just two persons, Abedin and Tom, and two goods. We could make it more. The principle will be the same. It won't affect the mathematics. So we have apples, and then we have fish. Right? Just two simple goods, apples and fish. Now, Abedin has an absolute advantage in production of both of these goods. He is really good at everything. I mean, just look at this random Abedin person. Imagine how good he would be at fishing and appling. So let's say that Tom specializes only in apples. All day long he could get 50 apples. Or if he did only fish, he could get 50 fish. Right? But in the same time, in one day, Abedin could gather 100 apples twice, or 200 fish. Right? He's better at everything than Tom. He is almost like a god with regard to fish and apples. Okay? He is really good. So you might wonder, why would he want to engage in exchange with Tom? Tom is not very efficient. He doesn't catch fish very well. He doesn't catch apples very well. He's just not very good at anything. In the technical economics language, he's what is called a loser. So Tom is a loser. Why would Abedin want to engage in trade with Tom? He's better at everything. Well, imagine that they produce an isolation. So they live on an island, let's say, with a river between it full of poisonous goldfish. So they're terrified. So Abedin is over here and Tom is over here. I think it's unfair. Abedin gets this very cool apostrophe at the beginning of his name. So we'll do that here too. So Abedin and Tom, and they're isolated. They're not engaging in any exchange. Well, each one of them believes in a balanced diet because their mothers told them you should eat a mixture of fish and apples. Not just fish all day and apples all day, but a balanced diet. So, what do we have? Well, Tom is going to produce, as we see here, 25 and 25, right? 50 is his maximum. Abedin, he could produce 100 maximum, 50%, 50 fish, 100 apples. Okay? However, Abedin is so smart, one day he comes across and he builds a little bridge. And he walks across and he says, I'll propose a trade, Tom. You're over here eating your pathetic amount of fish and apples. I'll engage in a trade with you. Why don't you spend all of your time fishing and trade me some of your fish for apples? He'll give you 37 apples for 25 of Tom's fish. So, Tom is going to decrease apple production, engage only in fishing. Abedin will go down 50% here, from 50 to 25, and up 50% here, from 100 to 150. All right, the mathematical ratio is quite clear out of this. They then engage in exchange. Tom sends 25 of his apples over, if you remember. So it goes from 50 to 25 and from 25 to 50. And then 37 come over here. So we had 150. Come on over 37. Tom now has 37 apples. Abedin has 113. That's 12 more than before trade and 13 more than before trade. By simply specializing and exchanging, they can both enjoy more than they were capable of producing. Now that's very strange. It is not obvious or intuitive how that works. This